Okay, I'm back again today, and today I just want to continue my thought, just leaving from Job and then coming to Joseph. 17 years old, and the Lord gives him a dream, 2 dreams actually. And because of those dreams, his brethren turn on him, and he gets rebuked by his father. But all of this is the will of God, and this is what I'm trying to comprehend, or I believe what the Lord is trying to show me is like the will of God. Like, what is the will of God in our lives? Like, what is it? Like, when these bad times come, when these storms come, who's behind them? Who's doing them? What's the purpose of them? Well, like when you're assailed again and again and again, daily, continually being assailed, not even demonic attacks, but just everything going wrong, but yet you're sticking by the Lord. What's the purpose of these things? What's the meaning of these things? And I think the 2 best examples of that is Job and Joseph, and we already talked about Job. But in Joseph's case, he was innocent. He was innocent all the way through. You know, his father gave him a coat, and it said that his brothers hated him because of it. The Lord gave him dreams, and his brothers hated him because of it. His father took notice of the dream, though. It says that he noted it. But then one day they put him in a pit. And it's really interesting because the entire way through that part of Genesis, you never hear anything out of Joseph's mouth. You never hear him complaining. You never hear him murmuring. You never hear him sobbing or crying. You never hear him pointing a finger at God or accusing God of X, Y, and Z. You never hear him belittle anyone. He's just constantly walking through the motions every single step of the way, every single tribulation that comes upon him, every single trial that he has to endure, all of it. He just walks within it. We don't hear anything from him, which I think is amazing. No complaint, no brokenness, nothing, not even a whimper of being overwhelmed. The only thing that ever alludes to how Joseph was feeling during this time is later in the scriptures, way later, and it doesn't even come from Joseph. It comes from his brothers when Joseph is in Egypt and Joseph is dealing with them harshly. I'll just get the scripture there. So it says in Genesis 42:21, and they said one to another, that's been the brothers now of Joseph, and they said one to another, we are verily guilty concerning our brother, in that we saw the anguish of his soul when he besought us, and we would not hear. Therefore is this distress come upon us. I mean, can you imagine that situation, being 17 years old? 17 years old, your father has sent you out to go fetch your brothers. You go looking for them. A man tells you that they're down in Dothan. You go all the way down to Dothan. I don't know how long the trip was. Could be days, could be hours, I don't know. Who knows how long it was? But eventually he catches up with his brothers, and even before he gets to them, they conspire against him. They conspire against him to put him in a hole, to kill him, to get rid of him, to whatever fiendish thought they had in their heart and their mind. And then when he arrives there, he ends up in a pit. He ends up in his pit, his own flesh and blood, half brothers, but his own flesh and blood. And they put him in a pit. They strip him of the coat, that symbol of his father's love and the provocation of their jealousy. Strip him of it and then put him in a pit. Can you imagine the heartbreak that Joseph must have endured at 17 years old? If all these older brothers, all of them, jealous, angry, murderous intent in their heart, all of them trying to, justify themselves, to justify their jealousy, their lack of worth in their own eyes. And yet he was put in a pit. He was put in that pit at 17 years old. I just can't understand what he would have been going through. But the anguish, like his brother told us, that he was in anguish inside in that pit. He was in anguish, suffering, calling out to them as they gazed upon him, as they looked at him in the hole in distress. I'm sure they mocked him. I'm sure their rage overtook them. I'm sure their anger did much more than I could possibly imagine. I'm sure some of them felt justified. But Joseph, 17 years old in a pit, innocent, did nothing wrong except follow what his father said for him to do. And this is one of the reasons why Joseph is a perfect picture and type of Christ. I put a post up on the YouTube there and thinking, I can't remember how many, like maybe 20 similarities or maybe 15 similarities of Joseph and Christ. And it's uncanny. It's absolutely uncanny. Like, it mightn't line up chronologically, but everything that they endured, the symbolism the whole way through, it's unbelievable. But 17 years old in the pit, and then they decide that they want to kill him. Except Reuben says not to do this. And then Judah suggests instead of killing him that we sell him. And they sold him to the Ishmaelites. As the Midianite merchants came down, they sold him, and he ended up where? In Egypt as a slave. But again, this is all part of God's plan. I mean, the whole way through in Genesis, the whole way through, we read scriptures like this. In Genesis 39:2, and the Lord was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master, the Egyptian. So that's talking about Potiphar there. So obviously he gets sold into slavery. He ends up in Egypt, and then he ends up in Potiphar's house. He was sold for 20 pieces of silver. Christ was sold for 30, the price of a slave. But you have the 17-year-old now in a foreign land, under a master, and the Lord is prospering his hand. He works all things for good to those that love him. Like, that's the promise God has for us. Like, I'm sure Joseph couldn't comprehend what was going on at 17 years old. That he couldn't understand what was happening to him. In a pit, then these foreign men bought him for 20 pieces of silver. Now he's in Potiphar's house, but yet the Lord prospered his hand everywhere he went, every step of the way. I don't know if Joseph felt the Lord there. I don't know if Joseph cried out to the Lord. I bet he did. I don't know how he came to terms with this, except just to walk with it. But it doesn't tell us that he turned his back on God. It doesn't tell us that he blamed God, that he cursed God. Instead, it tells us that God was with him and prospered his hand everywhere that he went. Like, every step, anything he put his hand to, he prospered. So much so that Potiphar took notice. And that's only the transition stage onto the next trial, which is Potiphar's wife. You know, I personally see Potiphar's wife as temptation. And I just don't mean sexual temptation. I just mean temptation, worldly temptation, whatever sin people struggle with, or whatever that besetting sin is. Like, that is Potiphar's wife. It says day by day she came to him. So you have this 17-year-old kid in a foreign land, after the conspiring of his brothers, put him in a pit, almost got murdered by them, got sold to strangers, brought to a foreign land, and now the very master of the house that has elevated him in that house because the Lord has prospered his hand, he comes across this tempter day by day. This tempter day by day. Sounds like the devil to me. Sounds like the world trying to get its claws on Joseph. Now, I don't know how old he was here, but he was definitely 17 years old when he got sold. But day by day she came to him, sleep with me, lie with me, come unto me. No one will know. It'll just be the two of us. We'll keep it a secret. No one has to know. Just a little bit here and a little bit there. But Joseph feared God. He feared God. He feared God. And that's the reason why he didn't do it. He respected his master Potiphar, that had given everything into the house, withheld nothing from him except the wife, because it's his wife, obviously. And the Lord prospered his hand, but yet the reason why he didn't do it is because he feared God. How could he turn his back on the master, the Egyptian, that had given him so much? How could he do that? And at the same time, how could he turn his back on God? It's amazing. It's amazing that such a young man would be so mature. Such a young man would be kept so well by the Lord's hand and prospered in every way, in tempting situations. An older woman. I bet she was beautiful. I bet she was alluring. I bet she was relentless. Just like the sins of this world. Just like the temptations of this world. I see her as a type of the world, a type of the tempter. You know, and he overcame it. I mean, to his detriment, he overcame it, because obviously she lied. Just like the world lies. Just like the father of this world is a liar, a murderer who came to steal, kill, and destroy. But the Lord used that again. He turned that evil for good. So even though Joseph got thrown into a prison, into the ward, he put favor. The Lord brought favor upon Joseph in the prison warden's eyes. And he basically became his right hand inside there. He did everything. Everything. It seems to be everywhere Joseph goes, everybody turns on him, but the Lord also turns it to his prospering. And I think that's amazing. Trying to understand the situations that we find ourselves in, why we're there, who put us there, like. Because like we said in the previous video in Job, like, it's not always the devil. It's not always sin that puts us in these places. Sometimes it is the Lord. There's a scripture, or scriptures, should I say, in the Psalms, and it's one that's really dear to my heart. It's Psalm 66. In verse 8 to 14, it says, "O bless our God, ye people, and make the voice of his praise to be heard, which holdeth our soul in life, and suffereth not our feet to be moved. For thou, O God, hast proved us." The Lord has proved us. He's tested us. He's tried us. "Thou hast tried us as silver is tried. Thou broughtest us into the net." So that's a snare, like. The psalmist here is saying it. The Lord brought him into a net, or brought them into the net, the Israelites, whichever way you want to look at it. The Lord brought them into the net. Wasn't the devil, wasn't their sin. The Lord brought them into the net. "And thou laidest affliction upon our loins." What do you say to that? But we know that this is for the trying of gold, for the purification of silver. We know this. This isn't malicious. This isn't some form of torture for some sadistic sense at all, that the Lord is some sycophant. Kind of like what the Israelites did in the wilderness. at Manasseh, or Meribah, should I say, at Meribah, where they said, have you brought us out to kill us? Basically accusing God of murder, like you've brought us out of here to murder us. It's disgusting, it's the attitudes and the accusations we can point at God when things don't go our way are unbelievable, because we don't understand his character. And most of these failings in the Christian walk and in our understanding is that we don't understand the character of God. We should study the character of God, that we would know his motives, that we would prove the scriptures, that we would test the scriptures and the spirits, that we would see him in his purest form, not a murderer, not a conniver. That's the enemy, that's the devil. But sometimes people get it backwards. It's amazing. Thou hast caused men to ride over our heads. We've been conquered like. The Lord has allowed us to be conquered. I'm sure it's for humbling. I'm sure it's for repentance. We went through fire and through water, and thou brought us, this is it, and thou brought us out into a wealthy place. So why was all that? All of that was so that the Lord could bring us to that wealthy place, that place of wealth. Now, obviously, it's not a place of gold. It's not a place of silver. It's not some form of materialistic wealth. It's spiritual wealth, spiritual treasure, understanding, maturity, the gifts of the Spirit, the fruit of the Spirit, everything that the Lord can offer us, a humbling of our heart, a meekness, his character poured out on us, an enlargement of our hearts for love. This is it. This is the wealthy place, a place of peace, that mountaintop experience. I will go into thy house with burnt offerings, and I will pay thee my vows, which my lips have uttered, and my mouth had spoken when I was in trouble. You know, when we get in trouble, or we're in a time of trouble, we're in a time of great stress, a time of great testing, a time of great proving, we often make promises that we can't keep. We say to the Lord, Lord, if you do this, I'll do this. I promise that this will happen, and then you make this happen. We try to barter with him in any way. But how often do we keep to those promises? How often do we follow through in them? They're just cries of desperation. See, we don't come to him looking for grace. We don't come to him looking for his mercy. We come to him looking to barter. Barter with the word from a corrupt creature, a fallen creature. How can the Lord take us seriously? How could he take any promise we give to him seriously, or any oath to him seriously? He knows our hearts. He knows the future. He knows exactly where we're going to be at all times and how it's going to manifest. But yet we think that we can barter with them. And I know in that moment in time that we're sincere in heart, that we're not trying to trick the Lord, but we don't know the depth of our own heart. We don't understand the strength of our own flesh, but the Lord does. The Lord does. So then we come back to Joseph. We come back to Joseph after he survives the temptation of the world, after he survives the pursuit of the enemy, of the devil on his heels. What happens? He gets thrown in prison, and he finds favor in the prison warden's eyes. And then we come to the two dreams, the one of the baker and then the one of the cupbearer. And we know that the Lord gives him the interpretation and that he gets elevated in front of Pharaoh. And what happens then when he comes before Pharaoh? He finds favor in the eyes of Pharaoh, and the Lord prospers his hand where he becomes second to Egypt. And what was the point of all this? Was the point of all this to just make a 17-year-old boy be miserable and then to give him the wealth of an entirely different country of which he was? Because he came from the land of Canaan. He wasn't in Egypt. No, he didn't. Joseph had to go through all of that to shape his character, to increase his trust in the Lord, that he could be dependent and reliant on the Lord in every situation, that he would doubt him not in any struggle and any temptation, and that he would rise to second to Pharaoh in the land of Egypt for one purpose, that he would save his brethren, the very ones that betrayed him, the very ones that put him in that pit, that slew the goat and dipped his coat of many colors in it, to bring back to Jacob and say, look, your son has been mauled by beasts, breaking their own father's heart because of their jealousy. Those very brethren he came to save. But the Lord was going to send 5 years of plenty, and then 5 years of great famine, sore famine on the land. But Joseph was prepared. He was God's chosen vessel. He was ready. He was ready for the time of appointing. And it's the same with Christ. Why did Christ come in this flesh? Well, we know that he came in the flesh that our sin could be condemned in the body of that flesh. But we're also told in Hebrews, wherefore in all things it behooved him. That means in all things it was necessary for him to be like unto his brethren. That's us. That's us. That's flesh and blood. That's the corrupt man. That he might be a merciful and faithful high priest in things pertaining to God, to make reconciliation for the sins of the people. See, Christ too had to come in the flesh. He had to go through his trials. He had to humble himself and lower himself from his royalty, from his deity, to come in the likeness of sinful flesh, that we too, those brethren that threw him in a pit, that nailed him to a cross, that we too could find salvation in him, that he could be merciful and faithful to us, knowing our condition, knowing our hearts, knowing our hunger, knowing our thirst, walking amongst us, befriending us. For in that he himself had suffered being tempted, he is able to secure them that are tempted. So what's the answer? What's the answer to all these trials? It seems like wave after wave after wave of things are going wrong continually. Just non-stop, just tsunami waves beating off the shore, just wearing you down gradually, day by day by day. What's the point of it? Well, the Lord is trying to bring you someplace. Now, if you're not in sin, if you're not walking contrary to God, if you search your heart and you know that it's pure and your hands are clean before him, well, then it's the Lord bringing you to a place. It's the Lord doing a work in your heart. It's the Lord preparing you for a situation. Maybe he wants to make you second in Egypt. Maybe he wants to put you on a throne. Maybe he wants to make you a choice and chosen vessel to minister the gospel unto one particular person, or maybe many people. But this is how the Lord changes us. It's through trial. It's true testing, it's true proving, but it's to bring us to a wealthier place. It's not to leave us destitute. It's not to leave us broken. Well, maybe broken, but in pieces on the ground. We might just be dust and ashes at the end of the day, just clay vessels that are cracked, broken and dry. But the Lord has a purpose for us and he has a plan for us. And through his Spirit, he works through men to touch other people. You know, what if you could bring someone to Christ and the only way that you could do that was to bear your cross, was to be nailed to that cross? Hosea had to go marry a woman of harlotry, a woman of whoredoms, so that he could understand Israel's rejection of God, and that the Lord was extending a hand saying, I don't want to divorce you. I don't want to divorce you. Even though you've played the harlot, even though you've been a nation of whoredoms, if you just admit your iniquity before me, I will take you back. This is the heart that the Lord has to work into each and every one of us. That perfect love, that Christ-like love. So yeah, I just wanted to bring how I'm being shown the purpose of sufferings from God's hand. Not if it's the devil, not if it's our sin, you know, but from God's hand. What's the point of it? That it's not malicious, that it's not vindictive, that there's a point to it, that he's leading us to a wealthier place, that he's preparing us for something. I don't know what that is. We don't always understand it until we're there. I'm sure when Joseph rose up, I think the names of Manasseh and Ephraim are absolutely beautiful. They're lovely. I mean, listen to what they are. And this is, I think the names of Manasseh and Ephraim show the heart of Joseph in this situation, the whole way through it. The whole way through it, and I think it's the heart that we should have. It's not that he didn't feel pain. It's not that he didn't suffer. He was in anguish. The whole way through it, he was in anguish. I'm sure at times he felt hopeless. I'm sure he cried out much to the Lord, asking for, but he didn't turn on the Lord. He didn't turn his back on the Lord or accuse him, but the names. And Joseph called, this is in Genesis 41, 51 to 52. And Joseph called the name of the firstborn Manasseh, for God said he had made me forget all my toil and all my father's house. Isn't that beautiful? The name of your first child. When the Lord delivered that first child unto you, it made you forget all the toil, everything, all the hardship that you endured, and even your father's house. And then the second name, and the name of the second called he Ephraim, for God had caused me to be fruitful in the land of my affliction. So saints, if we keep walking with the Lord in times of great testing and great trial, if we keep on moving straight, there's fruit. The trees only grow in the valley. There's only grass and flowers in the valley. There's none on the mountaintop. A mountaintop is a barren place. Sure, you get direct sunlight, but you can't live up there. You can't stay up there forever. It's in the valley is where the growth is. It's in the valley where the life is. We can't stay in the valley forever either. We need a combination of both. But isn't that beautiful? That in the land of my affliction, you've made me fruitful. And I pray, that's my prayer for all of us that hear this, is that in the land of our afflictions, may the Lord make us fruitful. I think it's just beautiful. So as always, brothers and sisters, just keep praying, keep walking, keep seeking. If you're in that time of suffering, that time of trial, that time of testing, and it's not sin, that your hands are clean, that your heart is pure, then remember that the Lord is doing something. And he's not your enemy, he's not against you. But don't turn on him, fall onto him. Because in that time of temptation, he is able to succor, which means to help those in temptation. He'll make a way out in that time of temptation. You know, the greatest thing about pain is that it doesn't last forever. So may we be fruitful in the land of our affliction. God bless, and keep walking, saints. Keep soldiering, keep reading, keep praying. and have a blessed and wonderful day.